I'm Matt Braunger. This might help.
I am not a doctor.
This might help.
I'm not a professional.
Let's have fun. This honestly is a good time.
Honestly, I got no idea what I'm doing. What's going on? Who are you?
I'm Matt Braunger. This might help. The podcast. Hey, welcome to This Might Help with Matt Braunger. Thanks to all who called in and who came to the recent live shows. They were bangers. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks, Mighties. And if you're new to the podcast, let me just say this is not real clinical advice. If you're here for real help, you need to go elsewhere. This is for fun. Like it says in the title, this might help. I don't know. Yeah. So think of it that way. It's entertainment first. I have a guy on today who is very talented and who I'm a fan of. He's a writer. He is a podcaster. He's a journalist. Please give it up for Dave Schilling. Dave, how are you?
Good. How are you? Boy, I haven't been a journalist in a long time. I haven't
But you've
journaled
been
at all.
one.
Yes, I was at one point required to write about real things.
Yeah.
I've devolved since I've gotten older.
Look, to me, that counts. I'm in Texas, and I was at the airport. I flew in from Oklahoma City today, and there were, the gift shop. There were, what do you call it? Newsstand, whatever the place is where you get your.
The Hudson News in the airport, right?
Basically, here
Yeah.
it's called Pops, evidently.
Of course it is. It's got to be
Yeah.
down home and.
Sure, it's super down home, and there was one of the pictures was called The Downward Slide, and it was a book by Tucker Carlson about himself, and it was like the subtitle was whatever 15 or 20 years whatever in journalism, and I was like, that's a real stretch, Tuck. It's if that guy's walking around going, no, but I am a journalist, it's like. You're more of an entertainment character who talks about current events and is horrifically wrong. That's my opinion. But I believe the first part is definitely unequivocally inarguable. So for you to be like, I don't know, I wouldn't call myself a journalist. Like, you're being real. Whereas anyone who works for Fox News in any kind of opinionated standpoint, it's like, anytime they take you to court, you go, no, it's entertainment. No. Whoa. I meant none of that.
As soon as dollars and cents get involved, you're just here for fun. I'm just a clown, like Krusty from The Simpsons.
Of course, I said it sincerely and said to them, I am sincere in not doing a character. Believe me, these people are taking over America. But I was kidding. Can you tell?
I am 100% a clown. That's how I want to be introduced from now on. Writer and clown Dave Schilling. That's all I need people to know. This is all that we're all just having fun here, guys.
It's so true.
Real. I did stand-up comedy for 5 years. I was horrible at it, but I did it.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not serious. This is not serious.
There you go. What is your favorite kind of thing to write? Like, let's just say we have some money to keep you going, and they just say, Dave, what do you want to do?
What if I said haikus?
One of those, yeah.
Filthy limericks. I write a column about fashion, a humorous column about fashion for the LA Times. And that is my favorite thing to do. Because I get to talk about clothes. I get to talk about my relationship to clothes, my befuddlement and confusion at many trends, but also my affection for people who have unique styles and do their own things and try. Like, that's super fun to me. I also really love writing for the New Yorker. I did a couple Shouts and Murmurs. That's super fun.
Yeah.
Those are the things that get me up at night.
Yeah.
And scribble things down. Scripts? No, that's not fun. You think write a screenplay is fun? No. It's basically writing a check that you can't cash because there's no money attached. You're just waiting. Exactly. Like, I hope the money ends up in my bank account so I can cash this check.
Right. Yeah. It makes me think of the Mitch Hedberg line about when you get famous at stand-up, they want you to write or act, and it's basically like being like, oh, you're a great cook. Do you farm?
Yeah, I love that.
It's like these are they're related, but they're all so different. So I think that's fantastic that you can just say, here's the thing I like to do, and I'm doing it. I think the fashion thing, you and I would definitely link up well on that, because I'm the same way. I didn't learn to dress my shape and body until I was deep into my 30s, and I used to wear very baggy clothes and had a taller grimace look minus the purple. And
Yeah, me too.
yeah, and I recently, actually yesterday, when I flew into Oklahoma City, my bag didn't make the connection. I transferred in Salt Lake City, and so I got to town, and I'm like, well, like I need a show outfit. I can't wear. I don't want to wear these joggers and this t-shirt and this track jacket on stage. I will if I have to, but I'm like, let me walk around. I didn't have a rental car, and I found this insanely hip place that would be in like a movie where it's like, okay, this is owned by Kanye West. Great, we got that. Very sparse walls and things. And I had a dividend, like I had, Delta has to pay for the clothes you buy that day. Yeah. And I probably pushed it, and I'm sure they'll fight me. But I got a really nice cardigan, and I got a nice pair of, fitted Carhartt pants and just sent pictures to my wife. But before I did that, I tried on other shit that I'm like, no way. But I'm gonna send these pictures to no way. That fits you well, but it's not you. And I put it all on my Instagram story, so anyone can. Well, you could look at it today. No one listening can because it's
sorry, guys and gals, you can't look at it, but I can.
You can't drink in the wonder. Follow me on IG if you want some more. But it was so funny to me. Long story long, how so many people would tag the thing I didn't buy and be like, that actually looks really good on you. And I'm like, yeah, but it is the thing that I feel like everyone is wearing, which is it's the oversized sweatshirt with a pocket that is widened in the shoulders and kind of hang. Kanye wears it every time.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Any number of stand-up comedians wear them and stuff, and it's that thing where I was like, let me try on 2 colors, and I was just like, on me it just looks like, man, are you trying? You're really trying to be that guy, at least in my mind.
Yes, when you hit a certain age, you have to accept that there are things that you can't ever wear again.
Yeah,
it's over.
I agree.
And you've developed a sense of your own personal style. You know what fits and looks good, like you said, but you're not going to deviate in ways that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Overly juvenile. Like if I deviate or if I do something wild with the way that I'm dressing, it's usually something that is still in line with my age bracket,
right?
Which is mid to late 30s. I am not going the other way and saying, oh, I'm going to start wearing, fear of God, like crazy sweatshirts or like big, like crazy expensive sneakers. I don't wear sneakers anymore. I wear loafers all the time.
Oh, good for you. See, I'm not aged out of sneakers. I do wear, when I'm on the plane, like I'm wearing my plane outfit, and like I do wear the joggers.
Sure, you got to be comfortable on a plane, right?
You got to, and it's like, but I don't ever wear them any other time just because I don't want to. Typically, I wear pants, and I'll wear Air Max 90s almost always. Maybe Vans or boots if I'm going somewhere nicer or whatever. But yeah, I think you kind of have to fall in line with your style. I remember working with a gal. I'm forgetting her name, but she's very funny. And she's a comic, and she was like around my age, and we were talking about people that take pains to make themselves look young and obviously fool no one. And she nailed it. She was just like, I don't want to look young. I want to look good. I was like, that's me too. That's me too.
Absolutely.
I don't have any inclination to fool anyone because I'm not. I'll be the first one to call myself an older person. After my comedy shows and there's someone very young, I'll grab them and be like, thank God people my age came to the show. I'm so sick of you guys. And it always makes them laugh because it's like, okay,
Watching stand-up comedy is a young man's game in that it is late at night. And you sometimes, get tired of being there, and you want to be in bed at 10 o'clock. Yeah. I do want to give a shout out to, and also to illustrate a point, talk about Paul F. Tompkins and his outfits, because I saw him recently. Yeah. And Paul's dressing, his style has evolved so much from, you watch his early half-hour specials and stuff. He's still wearing a suit and things, but he's not 100% Paul F. Tompkins yet. And I think one of the reasons why he was able to really fully self-actualize the way that he dresses is because he had more money to spend. Because when you're older, you have more money. When you're in your 20s, you're like, what can I afford to wear? What can I get at H&M or Zara or something that isn't designed to fit a real human being?
Yeah, exactly right.
And so he was trying, to dress up, but he couldn't really like be Paul until a couple years ago.
Well, yeah, and he also didn't. He also stopped closing down the bar Bordeners in Hollywood literally every single night, and lost like 80 pounds or whatever. And that always helps.
Losing weight does
Always,
yeah,
always
definitely.
helps.
Yeah.
Where did you see Paul?
Neil Mahoney's memorial.
That's where I saw you. I saw you there. And I saw so many people, and I was kind of in a real sense, far more than I thought I would be, in a sense of emotional shock.
Yeah.
Where it just kind of drove home, oh, fuck, he's gone. And he died months and months and months ago. But
I thought I saw him at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
I kept expecting to see him. And the only time this has ever happened to me when someone has passed away is my own father. Where I kept seeing him, around the time when he passed away. Wow. It was a very odd situation. And also seeing a lot of people I hadn't seen in a long time.
Yeah, same.
The most hugs I've given since the pandemic started. I was like, whatever. We should just hug, because this is one of those things where you hug people. And so
Yeah, and I remember feeling very happy with my decision to not say anything, because
Me too. I told Joe to Ray afterwards. I was like, I'm really glad I didn't say anything.
We all had, a handful of stories, but it was that thing where, like, could I say I was great friends with Neil? No. Good friends. Known him a very long time, but was never close like those guys and gals that came up. And so I was like, oh, good. And I liked that it never once felt indulgent. It was incredibly efficient. And I mean that in the best possible way.
There was nobody who was like, they really should have they were drunk and shouldn't have said that. This is weird. This is a real stretch. They just wanted attention. They saw famous people in the crowd and they're like, I'm going to show off how great I am. None of that.
This is why one of the many reasons why I love Eric Andre. The night before, I was at 2 memorials this week.
Trevor Moore one. Yeah, I heard about that one.
And I did like a bit with James Domian, and then I told a story about working with him. But we were all that was incredibly produced, because I knew my time. I knew when I should be there. And so you had a guy that was like, okay, so it's gonna be this. They're gonna show this clip, and then you're on. Okay, so if I can just have you stand right here, just like doing like a late night set or something.
Right.
And I didn't even know he was there yet. And Eric Andre comes over my shoulder and goes, "A lot of industry here tonight, bro."
I think Jonah made a similar joke.
Don't waste. Did he? Yeah, because I had to come a little late because I was still feeding my kid and putting her to bed. But it just was like that, with that time you're not necessarily supposed to laugh, but it just got me as if that self was like, I'm gonna do a tight 5. I'm not even gonna talk about Trevor. I got this.
Yeah, I got really good stuff
lined up. Capitol riots. It's gonna just murder.
Yeah, it's one of those places where you really have to check your own ego and remember why you're there.
Yep.
Because there are a million situations in show business where you are like, oh, this is an opportunity. I have an opportunity. This is a thing that I should do.
Yeah.
And that is a self-interested gremlin in your brain warping your perspective on what is important. And the thing that was most important that night was Neil. And I'm sure at Trevor's, it was the same thing. It was about the person and their family. I mean, don't confuse why you are in the room. And always remember what your goals are as a friend, as a human being, and not necessarily as a show business monster. Yeah,
and I mean that can be applied to the greater everything, where it's like maybe less what do I want and more what do we need? What do all of us need right now?
Yeah. What is this? Well, what is the aim of this evening? What is the purpose?
Yeah. I mean, I've also kind of taken to not barf out as many opinions as I used to just doing stand-up, because I have a mic, because something's fucking with me. I should have an idea of how to make this funny if I do, and sometimes I'll do that, but more often than not, it's like, look, my job is to let you forget everything and just have fun for an hour, and then I'm gone. And, you know, you want to take a picture with me? I'm going to do it outside these days, but sure, rather than go, man, what is the shit with the you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in Texas right now, and of course, I'm only thinking of one thing so often. Every time I see a woman on the street, I'm just like, what must you be going through, you know?
Yeah.
But am I going to talk about it? No. And is it for my own self-interest or protection? No. It's because I don't want someone feeling. I'm working on. I'm going to do a special in 2 days.
Yeah.
And the hour's all set, and I'm just taking stuff out. And I had this bit that does typically really well, but it's about the Capitol riots, and I'm just taking the whole thing out because I'm like, I don't care how well it does. I just don't want it to veer out of the fun and make you remember this thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are multiple schools of thought in comedy, and there's certainly a lot of people who are like, you got to say the thing that's the most fucked up to get people to think about it.
I don't disagree with that necessarily. You know?
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that either. It's just a question of what are you comfortable with as a performer, and then taking into account your audience and their feelings. You know, they're the people who are sort of like, I got to be the edgiest person in the room, and I'm going to say the most heinous thing ever. It's going to upset people because my job is to be a provocateur. I'm supposed to get people out of their comfort zone. That has been perverted into, I can say whatever I want because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good.
Right.
When your job as an entertainer, if it's as a stand-up comedian, if it's an actor, if it's a performance artist, a dancer, is to elicit a response from the audience that is not necessarily just outright anger. And sometimes it can be. You can be transgressive, but to do that in a way that hurts people's feelings is outrageous to me. Like the idea that you need to be mean, cruel to the audience. You can do cruel things in the context of your work, but to be cruel to the audience is anathema to everything that entertainment is about.
Yeah, I mean, it's telling that it's always, even a well-meaning white person that's just like, I just think the N-word is just a curse word, and I
got to be able to say it. Come on, why not? This is freedom of speech. It's America.
The more we say it, the less power it has. It's like
not true.
Not true. I think you give it power. Also, I don't think the people that have already undergone just like unimaginable oppression want to live through that day of us trying to wear that word out.
Yeah, it's not up to human beings to take power away from a word. It's not possible.
That's a good point.
It's like the C word, you know, in relation to a woman. In the UK, people say it all the time. I have a lot of British friends, and they throw it around all the time.
Yep.
But the power the words have are individual with the people that you meet every day. It's not like collectively we all decided it's fine. Well, the N-word is not about the power we give it. It is about the legacy and the history tied into that will never go away. It can't, because you can't just wipe away history, which is unfortunately what I feel like, you know, a lot of people want to do is sanitize history. You can't necessarily do that. So we have to take into account where the word comes from, but also how it makes people feel. Empathy is a lost concept in the world, and it's sad.
It's looked on as weak, which drives me crazy. To me, it's the strongest thing. It's often the hardest thing to look past yourself. Yeah, I had a guy. Yesterday was a comedy of errors, and he had a great show, but then after that, everything kind of went downhill, you know. And my driver, they were supposed to drop my my bag off that didn't make it, as I mentioned, to my hotel room, and I get back from the show at 10:30. It's not there, and there's no number to call, and so I call my wife, and she's like, you just got to go to the airport and get it. And I'm like, fuck, you're right. Like, all I want to do is lay in bed and eat candy, watch TV. But so I get this Uber, and the guy finds out I'm a comedian, nice enough guy, but he starts talking about how, you know, everything's so PC and everyone's so sensitive. And, you know, I tell my son he plays football, there's no racism in football, which I can't even start with that.
That's wrong.
He's like, you know, just like comedy. And like, yeah, that's right too. And he basically is like, I saw this interview with Morgan Freeman. He said it. Morgan Freeman, just stop talking about it. What do you do about racism? You keep talking about it, it's going to keep coming back. And, I was like, okay. And I finally just was like, well, look, man, I don't like the whitewashing of things. I see where you're coming from. I agree that people should be able to say whatever they want on stage, but if they get booed, that's on them. But we are built on the backs of the lives and suffering of slaves as a country, and that's why we're powerful. And I feel like now the status quo is, let's just look, it wasn't that bad. And I'm like, and when people say that, I say, you can fuck yourself. And the guy laughed out loud. He's like, okay, you got me. And I thought I was just gonna be that guy that's just like, right, get me out of the car, give me my bag. But I was like, no, I have to fucking at least engage on some level with that guy. And we left amiable. Yeah, I don't necessarily like that guy, but that's the prevalent attitude. And it last thing I'll say about it, I don't want to get off on a fucking soapbox thing, but goddamn, as soon as the president was like, no, Tulsa wasn't a riot, it was a massacre. That's when all of the critical race theory just started pouring across our country. It was literally like people opening a drawer and stuffing all this documents in and being like, nothing to see here. God damn it. Can we move on? Yeah. It's like blaming an Asian baby for Pearl Harbor. It's like, no, it isn't.
It's very different.
So different.
Yeah, but we don't have to get into that because
no, but that's okay. Yeah. So give me a take on something you've enjoyed lately that maybe you've had or
something, anything.
Sure.
Anything. Oh,
could be someone mentioned a movie or you were in an enthusiasm of yours lately because you were talking about fashion and a thing you're into.
I'm going to give you something that I really love that I've been thinking about a lot because I just saw the movie, the new James Bond film.
I'm so jealous.
No Time to Die.
I like that I jokingly said, get me tickets.
Oh, yeah, because I couldn't record this because I had to go see the movie. That's right. Yeah. It was great. But I am also tired of this man crying all the time. There's nothing wrong with tears in a movie. Nothing wrong with men crying in general as a concept. It's important to express your feelings. I just want to see James Bond say something funny and blow up a car. I don't know. He's so depressed all the time. The poor man. You just want him to get help. You want him to go to a therapist, and he won't do that. James Bond will literally save the world before going to therapy.
Yes, he will. I liked seeing him age and get kind of broken down. I love the fact that they just called him an alcoholic. I loved that. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Speaking as a heavy drinker, I got such a kick out of that. Because it's like, by definition, he basically is. Every day he has heavy drinks. And
he's driving a vehicle.
Drives a vehicle.
Yeah. He fights, he carries a gun.
You can't drive a truck or teach a class with any alcohol in you, but you can work in espionage and carry weapons and gadgets and like poison vials and shit like that.
Give me the realistic James Bond. He shows up to Q's laboratory and he's like, okay, what do you got for me today? Hold on. He just starts vomiting all over his weapon.
He's given a piss test and he's got like that fake penis and like Q him, like,
a little bag.
Come on,
James, you've done this before. It's interesting to see him played as more of a human character. Those things never really affect him, like my absurd scenario where he comes to Q's laboratory drunk, but they do comment on the fact that he's always drinking and he has been allowed to get old in a way that Roger Moore was around the same age, I think, that Daniel Craig is now.
Yeah.
And you watch those later Roger Moore movies and you think, boy, this old grandpa is still having sex with 20-year-old women. Yep. This is bad.
Even as Daniel Craig, man, like look at his liney face. I mean, someone described him as action grandpa, like Roger Moore and James Bond, and I loved that because I love Roger Moore. I think that
he's my favorite Bond.
He's so dope. Yeah.
But it's sort of like in the era of Ronald Reagan as the president of the United States, people were like, all right, I can swallow the fact that this elderly gentleman is saving the world because look at our president. who sleeps through meetings and eats jelly beans all day. He's just as cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is more about Bond being vulnerable and being monogamous. Like he really only has one girlfriend for most of these. Like he has the girlfriend who dies at the end of Casino Royale.
Right.
He has a couple dalliances with women in the subsequent movies.
Right.
But for the most part, he's a one-woman man. In the previous movie, Madeline Swan comes in and they settle down. And that's where the movie starts.
Incredible.
They're together.
Yep.
So that's an interesting choice to make. And it was different than what I'm used to. Mm-hmm. It's not why I fell in love with the character.
Right.
But it was a brave artistic choice. And I'm glad they did it. And now let's go back to him making jokes and jumping out of airplanes with a Union Jack parachute and all kinds of silly. Give me the silly stuff again. I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean, I like the silly stuff, but like Daniel Craig he's I won't say my favorite, but he might be. It's hard for me to pick because I do that Casino Royale and
Skyfall?
Skyfall and Casino Royale are my two favorites. Mm-hmm. I love because he's just an absolute sociopath. That just, what Dame Judi Dench was like, sometimes a blunt object is necessary. It's like, you're going to die, and you're only here because you're good at poker. Go drink and fuck. And, like, there's something,
But then he finds his humanity in that movie, right? He falls in love with Vesper, and he softens. Then she turns on him, or he perceives that she turned on him. And then he goes back into his shell, but that there's a human being inside of that guy that Daniel Craig is playing. And that's what's cool about it is you see that humanity pop up throughout the movies, and you see it more than any of them in this last one, where he really is just a guy.
Yeah.
And he's putting the suit on. It's kind of like it's uncomfortable, and he looks a little slower. Like he's got plays a little belly. Yeah, not really, but kind of like he does look softer. He looks softer than he did before. And that's a testament to his acting ability. He's really incredible at turning on superhero and turning it off. Yeah. And you can see the moments when he's turning it on and when he's turning it off. It's a very well modulated performance. Cool. Yeah.
Well, he wanted to have Bond have sex with a man. Like he was just like, let's do it.
Don't we all? I mean, come on. Let's get it going.
If he like came out of a hotel room and there was another guy come out and like Bond like swats him on the butt and they like have a little giggle and then you never mention it again. And they're
just
gonna
happen.
They're just like you're just like just to see like did you see The Green Knight?
I sure did.
Okay. I found it very challenging, but I think it's an incredible movie and it's so different and it's not what I expected and that's fine. But almost as enjoyable as any part of the movie was when the lights came up. And that's the first movie I've seen in a theater in over a year. And an older man went, terrible movie, out loud.
Nobody got
up and he started town halling us. He's like, wasn't that horrible? What a terrible... And then I went to the bathroom and he followed me in. He followed I don't even think he needed to pee. And he was in the middle of the room going, was that a terrible movie or was that a terrible... And it's like, I'm not... And we're all just... He's not even there to us. We're like... Because all of us are like deep in thought about what we've just seen and trying to piece it together and understand its art and things. But it made it even more enjoyable that guy hated it so much.
What you're describing is a Twitter interaction in real life.
Yes.
Someone who's just like, I thought that sucked, right? Anybody else agree with me? Raise your hand if you thought it sucked.
Come on. Yeah.
Anyone?
And I would love to see that in a movie theater and see Bond just come out of the dude obviously hooked up and then just have just the body language of men around me going, what the fuck? Fuck no, man.
I was hard for a second, and now I'm harder. Oh no!
I don't like the feeling he's giving me.
Yeah, I would love to have that happen. I think it will. I think in the continuum of human society, we will see every incarnation of these characters until the end of time, whenever that might be. The next 20 years. I'm just kidding. I don't feel that way. We're gonna be fine, guys. Society is going to continue.
We'll live forever. Humanity will be fine. We know. Let me stress this: do not have to make any changes.
It's going great.
Everything's
no
cool.
notes. A+.
Great. No notes.
Yeah,
here's the question though.
Yeah.
Who would you like to see as the next Bond?
A great question that I was thinking about as we were having this conversation, because you mentioned the Green Knight, and I have seen multiple people suggest Dev Patel as James Bond, and I wouldn't call myself a traditionalist about James Bond, because that would imply that it only has to be one way. Let's be honest here, guys. Irish people have played James Bond. Scottish people, Australians, Welsh people. Okay, he's written as English. This is
every descendancy of what we call Caucasians have played James Bond, with the exception of maybe Scandinavian or
no Scandinavians, no Canadians,
or maybe Eastern Bloc.
An American played James Bond the first time James Bond was adapted to the screen. A TV show called Climax, and they adapted Casino Royale. Barry Nelson played James Bond. They called him Card Sense Jimmy Bond. Wow. So he's the only American to ever play James Bond. James Brolin did do multiple screen tests for Octopussy, but did not end up getting the part that brought back Roger Moore. Anyway, this all goes to say that it is not a given that James Bond is white or English in these movies. So why can he be not white? Why not? As long as you're English, does it matter?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. I'm not advocating for or campaigning for a person of color to play James Bond.
Sure.
I won't mind. Similarly with a female James Bond, whatever they decide, I'm sure it'll be great. My head canon is that James Bond be a man, a British man.
Sure.
That's not to say that we can't go that direction if we want to have a female James Bond. That's just not what I would do. But I think Dev Patel checks a lot of the boxes. He's young. Yes. Women adore him. Men adore him.
Oh, yeah.
He has a magnetism, a sexual magnetism and a charisma that you need for the character. And he's English. So it's he's
English. It's funny. 3 days ago, I was in my kitchen and I was just like, I think I'd like to see a South Asian Bond.
Yeah.
Especially because of British
colonialism.
History.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Come on.
That would mean a lot.
Yeah.
I think that would be more meaningful than female James Bond, because
it would move things forward in a very cool way, I think.
Yeah, it would hopefully take some of the implicit racism out of the character.
Yeah.
The misogyny of James Bond is something that you could take out of the character if you make him a woman. But then it's still going to be objectifying someone,
Yeah. Well, and I think if they did do a female James Bond, they would keep, ironically, the misogyny, and they would file it under comedy. Where you'd have this person that's very coarse and brash and putting women down and stuff, and it would be looked as like, oh, how empowering, but it's like, no, you're still being shitty.
Right. Yeah, there would be that tendency to want to go camp with it, which is not what you want to do. I mean, if it's going to be a camp James Bond, it should be a guy. You don't want to make light of the fact that you have a female James Bond. You have to play it really seriously, and you have to respect the unique qualities that a woman would bring to that role. You can't just be like, okay, we're going to write it as a guy, but we're going to cast a woman. You have to write it as a female character.
Right.
So that would require a lot of recontextualizing what this character does.
Absolutely.
If it's a person of color, I think it's easier. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but it would certainly be easier to keep it a man. So I do not envy the decision that Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson have to make, because there are so many people who have things that they want out of this. Yeah. There are so many people who have an idea of who James Bond is. Yeah. And every time they cast a new James Bond going forward, this question is going to come up. People are going to have desires.
Of course.
So good luck. I hope it ends up being a success.
Good luck. And also, if you do cast another white male, know that guy will have the ultimate feeling of winning, let's just say, the best supporting or lead actor at the Oscars. And in his mind, he's like, fuck, I'm that guy now. I'm the guy that took his fuck.
Yeah.
Damn it.
You're digging yourself out of a hole.
I think the fact that what's his name, who I think is fantastic, who's Spider-Man now,
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. I think he's amazing, but the fact that he's like, I'm just admitted I really want to be James Bond. It's like, kid.
He looks like a child still. He can't play James Bond.
No,
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see him kiss anyone.
No.
I don't even want to see him kiss his Aunt May.
I don't want to see him blow someone up or have sex with a woman and say something shitty, because then he's just a fucking bro.
He's a little bratty kid.
An English
bratty
bro.
Kid.
And I don't give a shit.
I do. Yeah. I think they're gonna.
It's like I'm gonna look for in his little gadget thing that fits in his shoe. Like, where is the date rape pill that you carry around, bro? Like, where?
Yeah, sadly, I think we might never get to go back to that characterization of Bond, but we'll see. We'll see. I have
a young friend that works at the thing that calls him an old fuck or whatever.
You old piece of shit. Yeah. We'll see. I think that they had a challenge every time they've done this.
Oh yeah.
But when they cast Daniel Craig, it was hard. Mm-hmm. People didn't believe him. He had blue eyes and he had blonde hair, and people were like, "Fuck, that's not James Bond."
But it didn't matter, because he was ripped and he came out of that water and that small ass truck.
They know how to do this. They take it very seriously. And so whoever they pick is going to be good, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're going to get to the calls, Dave. And I always ask people, first off, I have to tell you, I don't know what the calls are. I never do. Rene, the all-powerful producer of the show, he listens to them and he picks them out for us. He picks 3. And so this is all, we're flying blind, which is great. Only rule is we just don't, if people have a technical question, we don't Google. So sorry. This is all shooting from the hip. And I'll just ask you before we get started. Have you been asked for advice a lot or at all?
All the time.
Okay.
Since I was in high school, people are like, "What do you think about this?" Yeah, because I'm a listener, Matt. I listen really well, and I try to take into account people and their needs. So I think I'm really well suited for this podcast.
Perfect. Well, on that note, let's roll the first call.
Hey, I just had a quick question. Maybe get your advice on it. How would you deal with a know-it-all, say coworker or just a person in your life? How do you deal with know-it-alls, that type of personality? Thank you. Bye.
All right, here, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is, and this is the God's honest truth, and you have to listen to me.
You go.
I'm being sarcastic. First of all, he's like asking for advice, how to deal with someone who thinks they know everything. I don't know everything, but I pretend to sometimes. Okay, so I think what you do when somebody comes into your workspace or whatever and starts to tell you what they think they know about the world is you just listen, because you can't tell them they're wrong.
Yeah.
You can't have a conversation with somebody who's not listening to you. That's usually what these people are looking for, is validation and a safe space to spew whatever it is that's up here. They like to hear the sound of their own voice, which is something I can relate to as a host of a podcast.
Sure.
They need to, unfortunately, find a better outlet for their feelings than the workplace or wherever it is, the gym, or whenever you're being accosted by someone like this.
I will say, though, if the person, often these people are blowhards and they don't. It's that terrible hostage situation we've all been in, where you're like, this person is full of themselves and is acting like nothing will ever bother them, but we can all see how incredibly fragile they are, and if anyone pushes back, they will shatter and lash out. And so we're held hostage by this person and their, I don't, this is a strong term, but psychosis, where, I've had to go, well, but I wouldn't, agree with that. You have to stop them, and they're like, what? And it's like, no, you're breaking the deal. I get to talk all the time. I don't. Yeah, I have certain people that are in my life that will like do that, and it drives me crazy, But
are they mostly stand-up comedians, Matt?
No. These are people I'm distantly related to.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. And it's like, yeah, okay. And it's everything is I remember yeah, I just think generally speaking, it's exhausting. That's the way I put it. And that's strong, but I remember being driven around to radio for the morning of a show somewhere, and the guy driving me around would not agree with a thing I said for some reason. And we weren't talking politics or even the sky is blue, but he would say something like, yeah, I mean, we have, a show where two guys like get on stage and they rip on each other, and then we vote on who wins. And I'm like, oh, so like a roast battle? And he's like, well, no, like that, where you're like, all right,
so
dude,
it's insults, right?
You just have to tell me what it is, because I'm trying to help the conversation, but it's tiring getting told I'm wrong and almost there. It's this kind of so like that. There are degrees, but I think the whole thing. I think that the advice of like just listen. I know I get short tempered.
Yeah, of course you want to lash out. Yeah,
I'll just be like, you gotta stop. But,
it's a tricky thing if you're in.
But it is tricky.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing if you're in, let's say, the entertainment industry. And collaboration is the name of the game most of the time, right? Either people have a natural advantage over everybody else, and they kind of leap past the need for other people.
Yeah.
Or they spend years and years ingratiating themselves to other human beings, listening, figuring out ways to collaborate, coming up with clever ideas, executing those ideas with the help of other people. Like, those are the building blocks of success in most fields, but certainly in the field that the two of us are in, where you have to be a good human being on some level, or people will shun you. There are those, though, who can just be that know-it-all because they've been given the power-up in Super Mario Brothers, so allows them to scale past the fence and get over into the garden.
Yep. Yeah, that's well put. I think that when people haven't had that practice in their lives, or are kind of outwardly insecure, and I'm insecure.
Yeah. I think everybody who's ever been on this show is probably insecure.
Probably.
I certainly am. Yeah, God.
I wouldn't want someone on here who doesn't have some sort of issue. I don't really trust people that don't on some level. And I think we
I woke up this morning feeling like a complete turd.
Really?
And here of course, every morning, not every morning, but lately I've just been like, I had my picture taken professionally.
Oh, cool.
And I get the photos back and I'm like, oh, you look terrible. Oh, what is this? And my girlfriend's like, no, you're very handsome. This is a great photo. And I'm like, no, it's not. Look at that, those jowls. So it's really hard to shake yourself out of that feeling. And then I do find myself becoming very sensitive in the way that you describe when I'm like that, and maybe more apt to be pushy or difficult or sullen or a know-it-all,
Yeah, no, agreed. I think caller, I hope that helps you. Basically, give the person a chance, be kind, but also protect yourself. And,
confrontation is not the ideal situation.
No. But just take care of yourself. And if you're just a vessel they're dumping into, you need to close the lid.
Yeah. Boundaries are crucial.
That's it. That's it. Okay, let's roll caller number 2.
Hey, Matt, this is Rob calling from Alabama. I've actually called your show a couple times, and you have given me some great advice. So I'm hoping that this one won't disappoint either. The last time I called, it's kind of a follow-up. I had asked about how I asked a friend of mine if he wanted to do a podcast with me, and I followed your advice, and he said yes without any hesitation at all. What I've been waiting on is for me to graduate college. That's about to happen in about 4 weeks, I think 4 or 5 weeks or so. So I'm excited about that. And he and I have been going over show ideas and episodes ideas. And, it's been really fun just kind of bouncing ideas off each other. But now what I'd like to know is what what kind of direction do I need to go in? In other words, like what type of hardware or software do I need? Do I need a camera? What, how good of one, or how good of a mic? How good of a setup do I need? How do I even get this thing on the air? Do I need to have an agent or a manager or, somebody to talk to, the Apple company or Google or or Spotify? I'm not even sure how to get this thing off the ground. Any type of just basic information so we know what direction we need to go in, who we need to talk to, what kind of equipment, that sort of thing there. That's kind of what I'm looking for. We think we have a great direction for the show. We already have episode ideas. I think I mentioned that already. And we're just really excited. Just a couple corny ass white guys just getting on and, letting loose and, talking about some dumb shit. So, that's what we got going on. On another note, I will be in Nashville this Sunday, watching you on stage.
Nice.
I cannot wait. I absolutely love your comedy. I've turned my wife on to what you do. So we're really excited to get up there and see what you got on stage. So I'm looking forward to seeing you and, looking forward to a good show. Thanks for taking my call. And, yeah, that's it. Have a good one, man.
Thank you for calling repeatedly. Glad the advice thing worked out. Thank you for coming to Nashville, which you already have. And boy, I hope the shows went well. As far as the steps, I will just say there are numerous things you can find online that you can Google that will give you all the lists of equipment. There's various kinds. I'm not going to walk you through ours. I work with a producer. I'm on a network. That's rare. That's kind of a hard thing to get. So you should just start grassroots. And it's like I've talked about Dan Harmon having that advice for anyone who's an entertainer. It's like when you're lost in the woods, stay where you are. We will find you. We being listeners, we being industry, just get as good as you possibly can, and that will radiate. And you can work on social media, you can work on promoting yourself and things like that, but just get the thing as good and as fun and as true to you and your interests as humanly possible. The fact that you have it laid out already in terms of those ideas, that's half the battle. The equipment and the other things, the fact is anyone can put a podcast up on any of those platforms, with the exception of Spotify. Spotify is very hard to get on, but generally speaking, but that's okay. So I would just say we're not going to walk you through all the equipment and the stuff you'll need, because people will listen and go, boring, but you can find it online. Dave, what would you say?
Okay, well, I can give a couple tips. One, Matt's 100% correct. Just do it for a while. If nobody listens, if 5 people listen, great. You're getting better at it. And you're very lucky that you're getting better at it while people are not listening, because the worst thing in the world is to do it, have a bunch of listeners, and then them turn it off. You want to get good and then grow at a normal, rational pace. The second thing is distribution has never been easier on the internet for podcasts. If you go to Anchor or something like that, Anchor will literally do everything for you. They will publish all of your podcasts on every platform. I love it. It's Spotify owns it. It's just a way for people to kind of DIY make a podcast. And then technically, like whatever mics you get or whatever, like the audio quality, you can improve steadily as you go. Just start making them. But if you don't have, let's say, post-production expertise, you don't know how to cut tape yet, you don't know how to mix, try Zencastr. These are not ads, please. Do not think that I'm
no. This is insight.
I'm just telling the audience.
And you are not. And look, you're not. This is stuff you know. You're sharing your knowledge. I know from doing podcasts. You're not Googling. This is great. This is great.
I'm a pro. Yeah. Zencastr will record your conversations with people remotely. And then there is an option to mix down all of the tracks into a finished product. Cool. You can even do live sound effects that will go onto the mix at the end. It'll fix the levels. It'll give you a finished product, a WAV file or an MP3, whatever. It is a subscription service, so you have to pay a little bit for enough space to save all of your files in the cloud.
Right.
But you can also use the free version, just test it out, see what you think. But if you combine Zencastr and Anchor, you can pretty much just do podcasting without having to hire a producer or something. If that's not something that you can afford, having somebody, a third person engineer and produce your show is going to be an expense, or it's going to be a favor that you ask somebody else.
Yeah, and you're impeding upon their time. Use the time you have. You and your friend have entered into a covenant, and I hope your friendship can withstand it.
A blood pact.
It's good. Yeah. it's a good start. I used to do my first podcast was just me talking, and it was just 15 minutes, and then it was a half an hour. And if I'm honest, I found it exhausting because I wasn't collaborating with anyone, and no one else was working on the ideas but me. But now that I have a network, and I have Renee, and I have people on every episode, it's so much more fun to come play. It's so much more fun to come to work, So
yeah, it's always going to be a situation where the more you do it, the better. When I first started, I had the unfortunate situation of starting in a professional setting.
Oh yeah.
And I was not good. I didn't know how to do the things like transitions or keeping conversation lively, when to change subjects, when not to, when to ask certain questions, what a format should be for a podcast, how to keep it engaging for the audience. I figured that out just by doing it. So you're already like so far ahead of other people who might want to do it but don't have the will or the drive to try and stumble a couple times before you get to where you want to go. So just keep doing it. Hopefully these tips that I gave and that Matt gave help, but you're well on your way.
Absolutely. And I will just really quick add, just don't do it for spins. Don't do it to be famous. Don't do it to do it to exercise what's inside you, and I mean exercise as in an exorcism, like get it out, do it because it's your enthusiasm. People probably will, not ever hear of your podcast for quite some time. But
Years.
Just do it.
Yeah,
you just have to do it, and it'll be the thing you have, and let it be a thing that comes up in conversations. Oh, me and Bill, we have a podcast together. You do? You guys do podcasts? Because more often than not, as much as Dave and I, everyone we know has one almost, because it's just part and parcel with what we do, getting our voices out there. Most people don't know what they are, and you could be having dinner with a bunch of people and you mention it, and people go, well, tell me, what is a podcast? And they're like, oh, and it's that thing where I've walked my parents through what podcasts are, and now they've found ones they like, and it's a kind of thing where you will get people into the art form by doing it, which is cool, and then they'll find you. So yeah, that's the last thing I'll say. But okay, you ready for our last call, Dave?
Yes, I am.
Let me just say I really appreciate you being on, and I know you've been doing a lot of podcasting today. So
I have.
After this, I think you should go get yourself a nice ice cream sundae or a margarita or something.
Maybe I'll do another podcast. What if I just didn't do any?
I'll do a refreshing podcast.
I have to go pick up my son from school after this and tell
how
him
old
about
is
all
your
the
son, by the way?
He is going to be 4 in literally 31 days.
Amazing.
November 1st. Yeah.
Congratulations. My kid is going. Well, she will be a year and 2 months in a couple days. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. It's a good time to be a parent.
It is. I love it. It's its own special kind of magical grief.
Magical grief. That should be the name of your next special.
Yeah, any kind of sadness in the title it immediately sounds so indulgent.
Absolutely.
It's just like, why am I gonna fucking watch you be sad? Honestly.
Yeah. Well, that was 2012 in a comedy, wasn't it?
It was a rough time for all of us.
Yes, it was.
Okay, let's roll the third call.
Hey, Matt Braunger, how's it going? I'm sure you know who this is, but just keeping it anonymous just in case. So the question that I need advice on is, so my mother-in-law's turning 80-something in the next couple of weeks, and we're planning on taking her on a little mini vacation to a casino resort. at
Nice.
her request, that she enjoys gambling and whatnot. But she doesn't want us to invite anybody else in the family. They have a huge family, like, 30 great grandkids, 20 grandchildren, like 10 kids, adult kids. But she doesn't want us to tell anybody because she kind of just wants to get away from them all for this vacation. Now, my wife's been accused of being exclusive at times where they feel that she doesn't include the rest of the family in events. So I want to know, how do we get around not being accused of not inviting people when it's my mother-in-law's request not to invite the people?
Yeah.
And how do we handle the aftermath? Because there will be aftermath, and I'm sure it'll be a lot of angry texts and angry relatives. I hope that's detailed enough, but yeah, that's
Great.
I need help with that. All right, take care. Bye.
Thank you, sir. First off, for those listening, this is my partner in crime. This is Renee, the actual producer of the show. This is a first, ladies and gentlemen. But this is a great one. This is a really great one.
This
Dave,
is impossible. I will happily take
Take
this
first crack. Okay.
because I've had similar problems in that when I got married the first time, of course, I did not want to invite certain people. Me personally didn't want to invite certain people. And then my now ex-wife didn't want to invite certain people. So it's a question of, when they find out that they have not been invited, what do you say? So I had to just be honest, like, we didn't have enough space to invite everybody. It was a limited space situation. So that
I did the same thing.
Yeah, that was an easy solution. It was still difficult for them to process that they didn't make the cut, but nevertheless, I had a rational, fact-based reason not to invite certain people. What it sounds like our friend here is describing is a situation where there isn't a limited space problem, and it is a request from another family member.
Yep.
So my advice is to be honest with these people. You need to tell, I believe it was the mother-in-law. Was it the mother-in-law?
Correct. Yeah. Mother-in-law.
The mother-in-law needs to know. You can't lie. You're not going to lie. You are not going to obfuscate. You are not going to leave these people hanging who are not invited to this event. You're going to tell your mother-in-law, look, you don't want these people there. You need to tell them when they come a-calling. I am not going to deflect for you. I am not going to run interference for you. If they're mad when they find out, I'm going to say why they're not invited. And then you have to pick up the pieces from there, because it's not your problem.
No,
it is her problem.
I will give I agree with you wholeheartedly. Also, here's a bit of spin to make it easier to take. Anytime someone is not invited to someone, the perfect way, and you're not lying, is to say, like, for example, for Renee's mother-in-law, when people are like, well, we're family, we weren't invited. You go, she wanted to keep it small. Keep it small. That's the term that people tend to respect, where it's like, people are like, you're married, or we're going to celebrate this thing, but we're going to keep it small. And if someone says that to me, I just immediately go, I'm not invited, and that's cool. You want to keep it small. Everyone understands keep it small. And I think those are your three words you basically throw to everybody. If someone is like, why am I not in the small group? You can deflect to mom-in-law and go, she had a tiny list that she dashed off to go to her casino, and that was it. And she loves everybody, but it was just the people that she, I have three brothers who are cousins. I invited the two younger ones. I did not invite the oldest one to my wedding. And he totally understood because I barely talked to the guy. And we had a nice little heart-to-heart last time I went to DC. And he was like, I feel bad, man. We haven't really hung out like you've hung out with Mike and Charlie. And I was like, yeah, it's true, man. I'd like for us to have more communication. He's like, me too. And I was like, cool. And even his dad, my Uncle Joe, was like, yeah, I mean, Matt and Joe barely talk. And my mom was like, oh, like so relieved, because on paper, that's insane. You invite two brothers, but not the third. But we had to make hard choices in that wedding. And I think, you can say, caller, you can say, she had to make hard choices because she wanted it to be super small. She just wanted to have a good time. She didn't want to constantly be interacting with, there's a billion of us, it's exhausting to deal with that many people. And it's her day. It's her fun. She wants to gamble. She wants to play craps. She doesn't want to talk to her grandkids. Yeah. There's a time for each of those things, and they're not the same time.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to be honest with each other, and sometimes, you can run interference for people. It is possible, and I think the scenarios you described, the solutions you described, are really important and useful. But man, if you don't want somebody to do a thing, you got to say it. Honesty is it's so intrinsic to healthy relationships.
Yeah.
Every single human problem can be traced back to a lack of honesty at some point in someone's life.
Yeah.
So just try to see if you're in this situation, either you are the caller, you are the mother-in-law, whoever it is, like, just practice honesty.
Yeah.
If you're not close with someone, if they're a mature adult, they'll understand. Well, we're not close. I probably shouldn't have been invited to that. Like, there are all kinds of events where, I see people on Instagram, like at a wedding or something. And I'm like, I'm friends with those people. But am I friends with those people?
Right.
Would I invite them to my wedding? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
So to put yourself in the other shoes of the other person in this equation, when you are the one who's left out, it's also incumbent upon you to say, all right, look, it's not the end of the world.
No.
My happiness is not the point of this.
No.
Maybe I don't belong in this event. Maybe, I misjudged our relationship, whatever it is, but don't take it personally.
How much of it is you wanting to go party?
That's all it is. It's all selfish.
To go to this resort casino.
Yeah.
Be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I had a friend who I couldn't invite to my wedding because he just didn't make the numbers cut, and it was one of those hard decisions. He didn't invite me to his when he got married, and I saw the pictures, and did I wish I was there? Kind of. Mm-hmm. Did I think he was being vindictive? Not at all. Was I happy for him? Yes. I was just like, I'm just glad this dude is happy, and he's in love, and these guys that are also friends with me, guys and gals, they're having fun too. I have my own life.
Yeah.
I feel like we project too much on these moments of, I balk at the idea of, like, if you have to have as much family as possible. It's like, that can turn into literal hell.
Yeah. Or friends. You're like, I as I've gotten older, I've limited my social circle to people that I can see or not see, and it not like we can always be friends still, even if we don't talk for long periods of time, or people that I talk to every day. Mm-hmm. But I don't have a lot of acquaintances anymore.
Yeah,
there were a lot of acquaintances at my wedding because I was 30. And it was like I gotta invite all these people, and I gotta show off to these people like how fancy my wedding is. And now all those people I don't talk to because they were never my friends in the first place.
I tried first album. I tried to thank everybody, and
can't do it.
They were like, "No, this will never fit on the back of that vinyl album." And then I just copied and pasted it and put it on Tumblr for everyone. And it was like, you're scrolling for like 5 straight minutes. Like, what is this? Why?
Who do you really care about?
Yeah. And
versus who are you trying to impress or trying to curry favor with?
Exactly. Speaking of trying to impress, anything to plug?
Of course I do. Yes. Okay. So listen to my podcast, Galaxy Brains, that I host with my old pal, Jonah Ray. We talk about movies and TV shows, and the absurd theories we have about both. For example, we did an episode about Fast 9. And my ridiculous galaxy brain theory on that movie is that Vin Diesel is an angel sent from heaven to protect the planet during the story of the Book of Revelations.
Great.
I can't say more than that because it would take up too much time.
Downloading now.
Yes, it is a silly show about important topics. That's the best way I can describe it. And that comes out every Thursday. So download that wherever you get your podcast. And you can follow me on Twitter at Dave_Schilling. You can read my LA Times fashion column. You can find out when new episodes of Galaxy Brains drop and all the other stuff that I do that take up my time.
Great. Well, congrats on all that and on being a dad and filtering out the people that just don't matter in your life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on the show, Dave. It was a joy. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
That was a blast. Livened up my time in this lonely, lonely hotel room on this gray, drab day in Texas. If you need advice, call 323-763-0228. We always need calls. Anything on your mind, just call, leave a message. Don't second think it. 323-763-0228. Thanks. This Might Help with Matt Braunger was created and hosted by me, Matt Braunger. Produced by Outer Circle Media. Executive producers Matt Kleinschmidt and Robert Kelly for the Laugh Button Podcasts.